Welcome into 4 Down Territory. I am Kyle Madsen, the managing editor of Niners Wire. Joining me, as always, we're back. It's Doug Farrar, the managing editor of the Touchdown Wire. Doug, we made it through the slog of the NFL offseason.
It was
we
a
are here.
Too. Oh, God.
Training camps are getting ready to start. I'm fired up, man, and I'm happy to be back here on 4 Down Territory.
Thank goodness. Together again for the first time. Yes, it's a pleasure to be back. A pleasure to talk football. Pleasure to talk a project that our own NFL Wire site, tremendous editors such as yourself and writers such as a lot of other people put together. And it was a great list and a lot of work, and now we're going to tear it to bits.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is my favorite thing. So when the project got announced, it was do this, vote this way. You can do 1, you can do 32, however many you want to do. Right? And I was like, okay, I'm going to do 10. I'm going to rank my top 10. And then I got to 8 and went, I'm doing all 32. This is way too much fun. So I had a blast with this, and I'm going to have a blast breaking it down with you. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's always fun. And unlike the NFL Network Top 100, we think these votes are actually who they say they are. We're just saying.
Yeah, I did not outsource my vote.
Yeah, I'm not inferring anything. So,
all right, very good. So, as you said,
trouble with the shield.
No, don't want to do that. Don't want to stir up any trouble for sure. No. So, our awesome team of editors and writers put together and voted on a list of the 50 most dominant players in the NFL. But every time one of these lists come out, whether it's this dominant 50 most dominant or the NFL Network Top 100, whatever it is, there's always this like subcategory of player who should make these lists but don't. Like there's always that one like really egregious snub. So based on how the voting went, give me one player. Let's start on offense. Give me one offensive player who should have been in the top 50 but wasn't, and then also tell me why you think the snub was bad.
And by the way, the top 101 annual list on Touchdown Wire, which you will see at the end of August. There's another one.
It's a great plug.
So my guy on offense is Browns guard Joel Bitonio. I like that 3 guards, Zach Martin of the Cowboys, Quentin Nelson of the Colts, and Chris Lindstrom of the Falcons made the list. I'm always in favor of the big dudes getting love, especially when they're not tackles. It's like, hey, 3 guards, I'm good. But, it could easily be argued that none of those fine gentlemen had a better 22 season than Bitonio. And Bitonio has been one of the NFL's best guards for a good long time now. I could say over the last 2 seasons, there hasn't been a better guard in football. And him and Wyatt Teller together with their pulls and their sweeps and, everything. It's just, he's awesome. The 9-year veteran who has played his entire career with the Browns allowed 1 sack, 6 quarterback hits, and 13 quarterback hurries, and 667 pass blocking snaps last season. And he did so with a quarterback situation that was, to put it kindly, unstable. Adding his run blocking expertise and his athleticism in all things. He was a tackle in college, by the way. I would have liked to see Bitonio over at least Nelson, who had a really off season, and Lindstrom, based on last year. And he's right up there with Zach Martin, if not ahead of him. So that's my guy. Kyle, what about you?
The one that really jumped out to me was Mike Evans not being in the top 50. And whether you want to make this about last year or his whole career, he's been in the NFL for 9 seasons, and he has 1,000 yards in all of them, including the one that he played 13 games. It's not bad. There's an air of inevitability about Mike Evans that to me makes him one of the 50 most dominant players in the league, and he did not wind up on the list. He's done that with good quarterbacks, with bad quarterbacks, with good receivers across from him, with bad receivers across from him. You can just pencil Mike Evans in for 1,000 yards. That's not super easy to do. And I think that he should have been on the list for sure.
Yeah, he did it with Tom Brady. Yeah, he did it with Tom Brady last year. And it was Tom Brady, but over the last 2 years, the Buccaneers have had no run game to speak of. So you don't have to stack the box. If he gets 1,000 yards with Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask as his quarterbacks, I say he's the most dominant player in the NFL. Forget receiver. Forget
Clip that. Write it down just in case. Ooh. I also feel like I'd be doing a bad job as the Niners Wire editor if I did not mention Deebo Samuel here as an offensive player who should have been in. He did have a down year last year, so I understand that. But the strength of his 2021 and frankly his 2019 as well. He was hurt in 2020, but his rookie year in 2019 was really good. And the way he's dominant in multiple facets and how defenses have to so game plan around him really sticks out. But I also understand that sustaining that excellence is kind of part of it, and he was not at that level last year. So I get it, but like I said, I feel like a bad Niners Wire editor if I didn't mention him.
Bad editor, bad. Well, and he said that he had a down season. I've seen the boxing videos. Debo's going to go off. I don't care who his quarterback is. He's going to go off this year.
I hope he's not going to start boxing defenders.
Well, if
that's legal.
If there's no flag, it's legal. So we'll just see that's right. How I live my life. If there's no flag, it's legal.
Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Give me a name, one or more players on that side who should have made the list but did not.
I'll go with two guys at the same position on the same team. How about that?
Oh,
Eagles quarterbacks, James Bradbury and Darius Slay. Bradbury ended up as a 52nd player on the list, just missed the cut. And the only reason I can think of is that he's coming off by far his best season to date. There might be a reverse recency bias here. There's also the matter of 2021, his final season with the Giants, where his opponent pass rating allowed was 100.3. It was 51.8 last year. And he was, as far as off coverage, he might have been the best cornerback in the NFL. And then Darius Slay, who came in 59th overall. And I kind of wonder if, to a point, Slay and Bradbury cancel each other out. I'm not voting for two Eagles cornerbacks or whatever. And Slay last year allowed 47 catches on 83 targets for 559 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 9 pass breakups, and an opponent pass rating of 82.3. The touchdown total seems high until you watch his tape. It's mitigated by the fact that Slay spent so much time last season defending the number one receiver for the opposing offense, and he did so much in press man coverage, which is kind of the ultimate arbiter of can you play cornerback at a high level or not. He was operating on a higher tightrope than most cornerbacks, and he did it at a very high level. So I'll put Slay and Bradbury in there like, well, one of these guys should have made it, probably both of them, and neither one of them did, so that's a double snub. Who's your guy?
I think Darius Slay is a really good answer. I was pretty stunned that he didn't land here. Javon Hargrave. No, I'm not picking another nine. Demario Davis.
I would not argue that point at all. You guys have no idea what you've got on that. But oh my God, he's an
unbelievable player. But I'm gonna go down to the NFC South and I'm gonna shout out Demario Davis, who he's been an All-Pro in each of the last 4 seasons, 100 tackles in 8 out of the last 10 years. He's an improved player in coverage, and controlling the middle of the field, especially that intermediate area, is just so important.
Yep.
And he's going to rush the passer. He's going to get to the quarterback. He's going to be an enforcer in the run game. And then he's going to go be effective in coverage in the second level. And I just think that there's no more important thing that a defense can do against modern offenses than control the area that Demario Davis dominates in. So I know he was just outside the top 50, but I think he absolutely should have gotten in there. Like I said, Slay and Bradbury are great answers, but Demario Davis is the one that to me was the most egregious defensive snub. He's been really good for a long time.
I think he was my number 4 linebacker on my list of the top 11 coming into the season. It was Fred Warner. Hello. Bobby Wagner, Levante David, and then him. And the thing about, number one, the Saints have not been great over the last couple of years. When you talk about the Saints, you never talk about their defense, even though their defense was better than their offense last year. Yes, he does get snubbed. He absolutely does get snubbed. And it's not fair. It's not right. And that's just the way it is. But he's a great player.
Still a great list though. All right, let's move on. So we have our snubs. We have the guys who should have been on the list.
We're not bashing the list. We're just picking nits on video because that's what we do.
Right. That's the goal of the program. So if we're taking guys, putting guys on the list, that means on a list of 50, we have to take some guys out. So give me a name of a player or multiple players on the offensive side who are on the list that, you know what, maybe shouldn't have been.
The only reason I'm not putting Aaron Rodgers on here is because, and the splits pre and post thumb injury were not as drastic as you might think. He didn't have a good season. So I almost went there, but Lamar Jackson, and also injuries. But if this top 50 was more about the guys due for career best seasons in 2023, Jackson might be top 10, but it wasn't. It was about the most dominant players coming into the 2023 season. And based on his last 2 seasons, I have a tough time putting Jackson anywhere near number 19, which is where he finished. He was the number 4 quarterback, I believe. He has his best receiver core to date. He has an offensive coordinator in Todd Monken, who went to Georgia after an NFL career and kind of learned a lot about college offenses and RPOs and motions and shifts and all that. And I think it's going to be cool. But there's the fact also that Jackson missed a total of 9 games in the last 2 seasons due to injury. When he was on the field, he ranked 19th in DYAR among starting quarterbacks and 14th in DVOA. That's okay, but is it dominant? Is it MVP dominant like he has been? I have trouble ascribing that particular adjective to his last 2 seasons, no matter what he's done in his career. And I'm very bullish on his near future, but that's not really what we're talking about here. So and I'm not saying he's going to stink in 2023, quite the opposite. So this isn't an invitation to old takes exposed. It's just coming into the season, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. And I'm with you on him potentially having a career year, and he's been really good. But Greg Roman designing a passing game, not great. Designing a run game, awesome. Designing a passing game, not his bag. So I'm really excited to see Lamar Jackson in a quote unquote real offense. I have a couple here, and I want to run this first one by you because I trust your opinion on all things football. I think Trevor Lawrence got put on this list a little bit early. And he was really good last year, dramatically improved under Doug Peterson. I think everybody thought that was going to happen just by subtraction of Urban Meyer. I think Trevor Lawrence is bound to take some kind of leap, but he was 7 yards per attempt. He has 25 touchdowns, 8 picks. It was a nice year, but it feels like calling him one of the most dominant players in the NFL right now. That feels a little premature to me. What do you think?
I don't have a problem with him in the top 50. And there were things he did even in the Urban Meyer season. You remember the overtime game they lost to the Bengals, where that was the whole team went back to Jacksonville and Meyer stayed in Ohio to hilarious circumstances.
Yes.
That was his 4th NFL game, and the coaching staff was a joke, up and down, and he was making some like peak Aaron Rodgers level throws.
Right.
So, they didn't really have a number 1 receiver per se, like a dominant X ISO guy. Christian Kirk became this amazing slot guy. But, the offensive line was a bit hit and miss. The run game was okay. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I wouldn't put it like in the top 10 or anything, but top 50,
sure.
I'm
okay.
cool.
The other one that stuck out to me was Mark Andrews from the Ravens. Been really good. Like this is tough because I'm not trying to say Mark Andrews is not a good player. He's excellent, but he's a pretty good run blocker, not dominant in the way Rob Gronkowski was or George Kittle is.
Yeah.
But he has 1,000 yards once. He's gone over 850 yards only twice. And, he's good in the red zone, but I feel like a lot of that is because the Ravens don't have a ton of other options. So Mark Andrews, really good player. I don't feel great about making him one of the 50 most dominant in the league.
I think the numbers, you have to look at the context of their offense. They're not going to pass a lot, especially, it was kind of like the Niners where they had 3 different quarterbacks.
Right.
I would say Travis Kelce is NFL's best tight end against zone. Mark Andrews is top 2 or 3 against man. And where that shows up, his attributes against man, the ability to separate in short areas. I mean, there's a reason he's a dominant red zone and end zone target. I think if he was he's not Travis, well, he's faster than Kelce at this point in his career. Kelce is a bit more nuanced, but if he was in a pass heavy offense, I think the numbers would more reveal his talent. That's another guy where if he's 52, if he's 48, if he just cracks the list, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
He's not Kelce. He's not Kittle as a pure receiver. He's not even Darren Waller. Although that's kind of all Waller is, and that's fine because he's great.
Right.
But if we're putting 4 tight ends in the list, I think he's 3 or 4. And it's an important position. So I get what you're saying, and I wouldn't say Both Lawrence and Andrews, I think, are top 50-ish. They're not top 20, but they're,
Sure.
It's kind of like Bradbury's 52. Okay, well, he should have been maybe 30, but that's that kind of gray area is where, okay, we could go either way with this.
Sure. Let's jump over to the defensive side of the ball and do the same thing. Who made the list? Who maybe shouldn't have?
I've always had a really contrary opinion about this player, and I always duck when I talk about it because there are times when he's like Hall of Fame. Jalen Ramsey. He finished 21st on our list, and while that's deserved to a point when he's at his best, there are also too many instances these days where that's not quite good enough. Last season, his final season with the Rams for the trade that sent him to the Dolphins, he allowed 56 catches on 86 targets, 712 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 11 pass breakups, opponent pass rating of 98.6. When the opponent pass rating is optimal body temperature, it's not good. You can slough that off to a point with the tape, balance it out. But here's the problem. More and more, it's important that you can either play man coverage as an outside corner or quarters, which is kind of man with rules. Ramsey's performance in man coverage for PFF last season, 9 catches on 11 targets, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 2 pass breakups, and an opponent pass rating of 149.1.
Oof.
That's not a top 50 player. I don't care who he is. If you're that, and I went back and watched the man snaps because sometimes, especially with corners and safeties, stats lie. I think he's better as kind of an overhang defender than an outside corner. And I know it's him and Xavier Howard. It's Vic Fangio's defense. Fangio will make the absolute most of Ramsey because the guy is a freaking genius. You know this because he was, all about that. But I can't put him above Slay and Bradbury. I didn't put him above Slay or Bradbury in my cornerbacks list. So how am I going to put him above either one of them in the top 50? There's just no way.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with a cornerback as well. And again, this is a tough line to walk. It's Patrick Surtain.
But after you say what you say, I'm going to tell you why I completely agree.
Okay, so I feel the same way about him as I do about Lawrence, where I'm really certain that he's trending in the direction of being on this list for a long time. Yep. I fully believe that. I think he's a very good player, and the leap he made from year 1 to 2 is impressive.
Believe that he's the best cornerback in the NFL right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
that is a strong opinion around the league. So,
well, I disagree with people in the NFL.
I disagree with people in the league. So there.
I just no, like I said, it's not about for me. The way I view this is one incredible season. I'm not ready to make you one of the most dominant players in the league. I have to see it over an extended couple seasons, and it feels like putting him there now over guys like Slay or Bradbury or Demario Davis, even maybe Von Miller, although he might be a little bit washed at this point for the purposes of this list. He's a really good rookie, Surtain was, and he was even better in his second season. But with guys like the ones I just named missing the list, I think Surtain got put in a little bit early.
Where I agree with you on this is they played a ton of man in 2021, which is Fangio's last season with them. And one of the reasons they played so much man was because Surtain is a dead red man press corner. Was in college, is in the NFL. They had a coordinator switch. Now they got another one, third different DC in 3 seasons, which is always weird. They went to a lot more zone, and his zone splits were not great. And he got a little bit lost in zone coverage. When I put together my top cornerbacks list, the guys I had up top, and Bradbury was number 1, Slay was number 3, were guys that were dominant in man and zone. I want both. Sorry.
Right.
And I'm
you
not
got to be multiple. Yeah.
I'm not saying Surtain was, I think his opponent pass rating was like 75 in zone. So we're not talking, it's not a disaster.
Right.
But if we're going to say that he is the best corner in the NFL, which there are people like highly placed in the NFL coaches say he's, and not just the Broncos coaches either, but like coaches, Surtain is the best. I think he could be. I think there are times when he's right up there, but it's still, I'm not sure I agree with your pronouncement that Lawrence, that's premature. I think with Surtain, a little bit is.
Okay. Very good. That is 4 down territory. So happy to be back with you, Doug. Love talking football with you and can't wait for next week.
Awesome, man. Great to be back, and thanks.